Good evening, all of you. Here it is Sanjay Bharadwaj, Senior Faculty of History. Guys, today I am going to discuss a technique and approach how to get beyond 70% mark in the history optional paper, whether it is BPSC or UPSC. Guys, the point is that we all have the same resources, same tools, same coachings, almost faculties are same, but why some students are getting 70% marks in the optional papers and some are getting very poor marks, 40%. Guys, the point is that it depends upon the answer writing technique, understanding the need of the question. So this all is equally important. So first, try to understand the dynamism of the modern history. It is very important. Or you can say dynamics of modern history. So here the point is that the whole modern history is can be divided into two circles, you can say. Since we have around 200 years of modern history, so just see how you can understand the dynamics of modern history. The whole modern history can be divided into two circles, you can say. The first is, two forces, you can say. The first is colonialism. Force of colonialism. Second is so this 200 years of British rule or colonial rule, it was these two forces which were shaping the modern history of India. And interestingly, side by side the force of nationalism, we have the third force, which can be called as the force of communalism. It is very unfortunate in the history of India. The force of nationalism can be called as a hero and communism can be called as a villain in the national movement. And it is very interesting that both these forces had taken birth simultaneously in the early 20th century. So first try to keep your mind, whatever modern history we are having, broadly there are two forces and third force is taking simultaneously birth along with the nationalism. And now try to understand, while going through the modern history, how you can understand these all three phases of the forces. Broadly we can say two forces, I think it is clear now. And the third force, which is called as communalism, can be called as a villain of the national movement. Nationalism can be called as the hero of the freedom movement. So see how we can understand all these three. Here we can discuss like this. So guys, here under the force of colonialism, colonialism. whatever 200 years of British history we are having, that is from Plassey, 200 years of history which we are having from here. It is a turning point in the history of India. So guys, here try to understand, it is a key. It is a key to understand the whole history from the British side. So here you may surprised to know this colonialism can be, dynamism of it could be understood into the three phases: first, second, and the third. The first phase can be called as mercantilist colonialism. It is the first phase, called by this name. Second is industrial colonialism. You can just, it is industrial colonialism. And third is, so first try to understand their names basically. So first is mercantilist, second is industrial, and third is financial colonialism. And the time frame, what was the time frame of the respective colonialism? The first phase corresponds to the victory at Plassey, Battle of Plassey, till the birth of Industrial Revolution. So guys, keep in your mind, this almost 5 decades can be called as the mercantilist colonialism. Second phase, it starts with the birth of industrial colonialism. Its time span was till the revolt of 57. It is supposed to be like this, almost 45 years, or round figures may you can say, again it is 5 decades. And the last phase is called as financial colonialism. Its time span was from the period of revolt till the independence. So first try to remember the names of these phases, and here how you can study modern history from the British side. Try to understand this point. Whatever policies Britishers were making in this 200 years, they were guided in the first phase by this approach, second phase by this approach, and third phase by this approach. Try to understand the meaning of the first, second, and third. It is mercantilist colonialism. Mercantilist colonialism means, the first means mercantilist colonialism means and the time phase is in this phase. Mercantilism means this phase is categorized by these characters. Monopolizing of India's trade and commerce. So this was the driving force. In this 50 years, English company, after getting victory at Plassey and Buxar, they are focusing only this. They were driven by this. Their main approach was this. In this phase, they avoided to interfere in the socio-cultural fabric of Indians. And I think you are well aware, in this phase, English company carried the same language Persian was going on. Persian was carried as official language. Along with this, they had never interfered in the social customs of the Indians, and they had taken only the superficial responsibility. Because in this phase, they only want to focus on monopolizing India's trade and commerce. They don't want to take any responsibility of governance of India. They only focused on this. So this phase, that is why we find in this phase, company had not made any fundamental changes in the governance principles, more or less because they want to avoid all this taking responsibility of governance of India. So guys, in this phase, whatever changes are going on, this was a driving force. And see what was coming in the second phase. When industrial colonialism will come, in this phase, I think you are well aware, industrial revolution has taken birth. See how the Britishers' policy will change here. Now they require raw materials. Now they want to make India as a great market. So see what fundamental changes are coming in the socio-cultural perspective also. In socio-cultural perspective, they are interfering. Interference you can say. Because without interfering in the socio-cultural fabric of India, how they can make Indians as a good consumers of the Western goods? That is why you are well aware, it was in the same phase, education policy is coming. Persian language got replaced by the English language in 1833. Finally, Macaulay's model of education is coming. Charles Wood dispatch is coming because they want to influence the mindset of the Indians. They want to make Indians as a consumers. So guys, I think you are getting the point. So whatever policies Britishers are making, they were driven by the respective colonialism. So this got influenced. Secondly, in the political field, they want centralization, create centralization. I think you are well aware, Indian structure got centralized, completely centralized, by Charter 1833. Governor General of Bengal was made as Governor General of India. The law-making powers of Bombay and Madras were annexed and were given to law member of Governor General Council. In the same phase, you may be aware, company is going for ruthless expansion. Dalhousie is also coming in the same phase because now they require the large number of areas to make India as a good consumer class. They also require raw materials. So in this phase, these all changes were going on. And nextly, in the third phase, we can say that is see what changes are coming in this phase. Financial. What changes are coming in financial colonialism? First, try to understand the meaning of financial colonialism. Because India is a colony, and guys, you know the meaning of colony. If you see the meaning of colony in the dictionary, the meaning is economic generation territories. So India was serving the needs, economic needs of the British Empire in this financial colonialism, which starts from roughly from here. In this phase, English company had amassed, Britain had amassed a large wealth, and capitalism always requires reinvestment of capital. So what forces had given birth to financial colonialism? We can say accumulation of capital. Large capital was accumulated in Britain. Accumulation of capital. These were the reasons basically. So why this phase is coming? Because accumulation of capital was there. And I think you are well aware, competition in Europe. Because industrial revolution came in Britain, gradually it spread to France, Belgium. The competition in Europe, because they want to reduce their cost of production. India is having a cheap labor, raw metal is there. Automatically transportation costs may be reduced. So why the British capital is coming to India? These were the reasons. Large capital got accumulated. competition in Europe, they want to reduce the cost of production. And third, we can say the revolt of 57. This revolt was a turning point. It was really shocking for the Britishers. They were not prepared that Indians could have reacted in such a way. So all these forces, all these three were the reasons that now British capitalists are trying to exploit the Indian resources through a new means which is called as a financial colonialism. And see what is coming here. So what were the characters? How the policy got influenced in this phase? So see here. In financial colonialism, in this field, in socio-cultural field, you know what happened? Now they practice the policy of non-interference because the revolt was a trigger factor. Revolt was shocking for them. How? Now they practice the policy of non-interference. Only in extreme cases, this interference can be made. Secondly, in this phase, investment, Britishers invested in consumer-based industries, not heavy industry. Consumer-based industries. What do you mean by it? They are not investing in cement, iron and steel. They are investing in paper industry, leather industry, glass industry and other miscellaneous areas, because India will giving them raw material and the cheap labor also. And in this, they had also invested in this railways, same reason, for transportation of the finished goods and carrying the resources. So guys, here whatever changes Britishers are making, they are guided by this perspective. Similarly, in the reforms you will find, whatever reforms are coming after the revolt, now they are trying to bring Indians into the governance also. You can see the charters, Indian Council Act 61, Indian Council Act 92, Indian Council Act 1909. So whatever is coming, now they are trying to bring the Indians in the system of governance to get the goodwill of the Indians. So here the point is that if you study the history, whole history from the British sides, these three phases of colonialism will help you a lot to understand the history from the British side. Okay guys, now we can just discuss the next phase, that is the force of nationalism. Or dynamics, you can say, of nationalism. In this dynamics of nationalism, you can understood broadly in this way. And in BPC also, in national movement, we have NCM, CDM and QIM, and oftenly every year one question is coming from either of these three. The whole history of nationalism can be divided into these four phases, you can say. Why we are dividing in this four? Because on the basis of the goals of nationalism. So see how it will help you in understanding the dynamics of modern history. Just we have discussed earlier how you can understood changes made by the Britishers. If you want to understand changes by the Britishers, try to discuss under the forces of colonialism. If you want to understand nationalism, how the nationalism typology is changing, how the goals are changing, it is a proper method you can understand in this better way. The first phase can be called as this phase. In this first phase, the goals were very moderate. They only wanted development of India. What development? Social, political, economical development of India by the Britishers. It is very important. So after the Congress had taken birth, the seeds of nationalism has taken birth, and now the early Congress, the early moderates, what they wanted? They wanted development of India by the Britishers. What development? Social, political, economical. These three. Social, political, economical. In the second phase, now this maturity is coming. The extremist wing was rising inside the Congress. It was the pressure of this extremist wing. Now the goals are getting matured one by one, and you can just imagine in this way. Nationalism was in the infancy stage. Now nationalism is coming in the maturity phase, adulthood you can say. Now here the demand is, first time on the platform of Congress, these two became the demand, Swaraj and Swadeshi. From 1906 to 1928. So guys, in this second phase, we find that nationalism is coming toward this. It is getting some maturity, Swaraj, Swadeshi. And finally, now the third phase can be called as the phase of Gandhism. So here guys are just, sorry please, here you can just divide the time like this, it should be, just correct it. We can just put, since Gandhi started getting popularity on Indian scene right from 1917 onwards. So it is better to write 1917 here. So guys, just try to understand this point. The second phase corresponds to 1906 to 1917, that is coming of Gandhi on the Indian scene, Indian political scene, that is Champaran Satyagraha. So first phase is this, second phase is this. Now Congress is revolving around these two goals, Swaraj and Swadeshi, and I think you are well aware the concept of Swaraj and Swadeshi was given by the Renaissance of 19th century. And third phase is Gandhism. Gandhi came on Indian scene in 1917 till 1928. In this third phase, Gandhi is trying to mix moderatism and extremism together. The third phase can be called as widening of the base of nationalism at a grassroots level. In this phase, the nationalism is going to the grassroots level. And finally, in the last phase, that is 1929 to 47, the nationalism is getting the most mature phase, and now Gandhi is transforming the goal from Swaraj to Purna Swaraj phase. Purna Swaraj. So in this way, you can just make a chart of this. The whole nationalism can be understood in these four phases. If a BPSC asks you the question how we can discuss nationalism in different phases, you can discuss these four phases broadly. Okay, fine. Now we can discuss the force of communalism. So guys, it is very unfortunate in the history of India that nationalism and communism, they had taken birth simultaneously. Nationalism can be called as a hero of freedom movement, and communism can be called as a villain of freedom movement. And they both are taking birth in the early 20th century. And here you can understand how this communism into different phases. The first phase is germination of seeds of communism. Then we can say so here we can say right from Bengal partition, the seeds of communism were sowed by the British policymakers. Bengal partition, side by side, Minto-Morley reforms. So here you can remember this equation of communism through this, that by Bengal partition and the Indian Council Act 1909, by which the Britishers had given the separate electorate, India witnessed the germination of seeds of communism. And guys, communism, you know what is communism? To try to understand the meaning of communism, communism is a feeling of alienation in the minds of a particular religious community, feeling of deprived, that you are deprived. Where you are deprived? You are deprived in socio-political, economical perspective. So in early 20th century, Britishers tried to germinate this feeling of deprivation in the minds of the minority community by providing all these type of changes. And communism can never grow in isolation. It requires a counter force. So second, from here, after the birth of Hindu Mahasabha in 1914, we can say communism started taking shape. Here germination is there, here it started getting shape. And next phase is Lucknow Pact 1916. By which Congress committed a serious political blunder by recognizing the concept of separate electorate to the Muslims. It led to the pacification of the communal forces, and after 12 years, in 1928, under the Nehru report, Congress tried to correct this blunder, and in Nehru report they tried to change the demand of separate electorate by the concept of joint electorate, but it was not accepted by the Britishers. And from here, the friendship between the Congress and League, guys, this 12 years can be called as a period where Congress and the League moved together in the national movement, but here the friendship got lost permanently. Nehru report is a junction where Congress and League lost friendship, and now League will go to follow the old track, that is communal track. See how changes are coming. After the friendship got lost in 1930, Muhammad Iqbal in Allahabad session gave the concept of separate nation for Muslims in India. In 1933, Rahmat Ali coined the word Pakistan. In 1940, see how changes are coming. Muslim League passed a resolution of separate nation for the Muslims in India. So guys, don't try to study in isolation, always try to make an equation. And here the most unfortunate aspect was that Congress overlooked these developments. Congress became serious only after the end of Quit India movement. Now it was very late because the communal forces had become very strong. So guys, the point is that never try to cram the history in isolation, always try to take out some equations. This is the equation of communalism. Okay guys, just we can come to the next point of discussion, that is how to study this ancient history, how to focus on the core areas of ancient history. Thank you very much. So just see, understanding of ancient history of India. We can discuss here for 10 minutes, further 10 minutes, how you should understand the dynamism of ancient history. In BPSC, in section A, we are having 3 questions from this ancient history component. And yes, in the early lectures, I had advised you to attempt 2 questions from ancient history and 1 from medieval, because in ancient history we have consensus among the historians. In medieval we have lack of consensus, hence it become very challenging to write a model answers. Then BPSC, in section A, part A of section, section 1, we have ancient history. We are having 3 questions. So here, how you should understand the dynamism of this history, you can discuss. We can discuss like this. Although syllabus starts with prehistory, but in prehistory BPSC rarely asks any questions. Questions are coming from IBC. Indus Valley civilization. So try to take out the meaning why this civilization can be called as a turning point in the history of India. First time in the history of India we find urbanization. It is also called as the first phase of urbanization. The point is that the civilization spread beside the river Indus or its tributaries. Hence the soil became very fertile. It led to the surplus production. And guys, in the history, if you have surplus production, you have markets, you have cities. Market and cities cannot sustain without surplus production. Here you can expect 1 question from IBC. After IBC we have Vedic period. The second topic which is very important especially for BPSC is Vedic period. You can expect 1 question from here, and the time span is IBC is supposed to be lying in this 1000 years of time frame. It is 1500 BC. So second phase is called as a Vedic period. So here try to understand why this BPSC can ask you what is the interrelation between these 2 phases. A question may arise whether it is correct to say it were the Aryans who had destroyed the IBC, or how these 2 cultures can be distinguished. Third phase, which is very important, can be called as Buddhist period. This corresponds to 6th century BC to 5th century BC. This is again called as the second phase of urbanization. The question may arise, why this phase is called as the second phase of urbanization? Because in this phase it was the iron technology which was at the base. Iron technology brought surplus production, stable production, and thereby market forces, urbanizations, And if urban areas are coming, liberty, individualism is coming. Society is also experiencing turmoil also. That is why the thinkers are coming. This phase is also categorized as the phase of intellectual revolution. In the mains, this term can be used by BPSC, that how far it is correct to call 6th century BC as the phase of intellectual revolution, and it is also categorized as the first Renaissance. This term can be also used in the mains paper. To try to understand this, it is also called as the first phase of intellectual revolution or the first phase of Renaissance in the history of India. The next core topic in the ancient history of India is the Mauryan period. It is very, very important, not only for UPSC but BPSC also, because the history of Magad became the history of India. Magad Empire became the Pan-Indian Empire, and their time span, Mauryan Empire, it is coming in 320 BC, 187 BC, almost 135 years. So in this phase we find that in the history of India, an all Indian empire is taking birth. First time we find the formal means of governance, administrative experiments were made. And the last year BPSC, the question was arise, how far it is correct to call the Kalinga War was a turning point in the history of India. So to try to make this topic, you can find a one question in BPSC also this year also. The next topic is Gupta period. Which starts from 320 AD. Also categorized as a golden phase in the history of India, ancient history of India. So guys, here in BPSC you can find one question from this topic, and again it is very interesting. Why in Gupta period we find a revival of Indian culture, cementing of Indian culture? Answer is very simple. If you go and see the history, what changes were coming after the downfall of the Mauryan Empire, India witnessed series of foreign invasions by Indo-Greek, Shakas, Pehlavas, Kushanas. India was experiencing interaction with the foreigners. Foreigners were mixing Indian societies. Hence, society was experiencing turmoil. These foreigners got assimilated in Indian society in between this phase. Hence, now the thinkers of Brahminical society, they want to preserve the Indian culture. That is why in Gupta period we have series of Brahminical literature. Puranas, Ramayana, Mahabharata got a modern shape. We have Dharam Shastras, that is preservation of Indian law. All this has been composed in Gupta period. And one point is very interesting again. In Gupta period, first time we find definition of India. That is very interesting, that Gupta period is trying to preserve the whole fabric, socio-cultural, political fabric of India in the Puranas, Dharam Shastras. Along with this, other scriptures. The definition of India got preserved in Vishnu Purana, in Mahabharata. Why this all has been done? Because intermixing with the foreigners, there was a crisis of cultural identity, you can say. And in this way we can say this phase acquires a turning point in the history of India. Guys, in the fourth phase, try to cover some topics from South Indian history, especially the contribution of Pallavas, contribution of Pallavas. What contribution? Contribution especially in the field of culture and art. Nextly, you can cover some in the same, you can also cover some micro topics like growth of feudalism, simultaneously you can cover other micro topics like temple architecture, foreign travelers, and I can assure you, so don't try to scatter yourself, only focus first on core topics, then you can go for micro topics. And since we are having 3 questions in section, this part A of section 1, easily you can get 2 questions. Okay guys, just wish you all the best. I will, and one thing is again important, those who are interested, they can register themselves on the Mobishala app. Okay, wish you all the best.